Stop trying to hold people accountable to a standard that they have yet to been exposed to and do not live from, and expectations they have not agreed to. So I said that I would share it more from a family standpoint. This could be applicable for husband and wife, but this can be applicable for your immediate household with your kids or distant relatives that you find yourselves connected to. Agreement. There's a principle of two when you speak of agreement. When I agree to something, I'm speaking from being an individual, but I'm speaking collectively from a societal standpoint, and it's going to help us in our interaction with individuals. When I agree, when there's truly agreement, there's a verbal recognition of what the discussion or the conversation is, but there is also a physical movement. So when you have agreement, there's a verbal acknowledgement of that agreement, but there's also physical movement. If there's no verbal agreement and physical movement, you do not have an agreement. We don't agree because it's not what you say, it's what you do. So you say and do, and the agreement is there. But, capital BUT_highlight, but when we're trying to hold individuals to a standard of living that they have yet to be exposed to and they don't live it, then it transitions over into we're trying to make them agree to an expectation, and it's not possible. Now, in our own figment of our imagination, individually, we do it. But when we see the proof that's in the pudding and it's not existent, now we want to get upset because you agreed to this. You said that you would do this. Okay, they said it. What did they do? And in this aspect, I'm not saying for you not to hold them accountable. You can, but don't get upset when you don't see what you're attempting to hold them accountable to based on the expectation that we agreed upon. This is in the family context. We attempt to think in our minds that people agree to these expectations that we have for them. Like, I think we take our brain power and mindware and project over into different houses that we don't find ourselves in our imminent sphere. We're not in those houses, so we project it, but we think that these people are agreeing to our expectation. They're not. So I may have what I'm saying is this: I may have an expectation for a relative. This relative is not in my immediate household. This relative is a distant relative. They may live in the same city. They may live in a different city or state. But it's a projection on how I live. So I can never project how I live onto somebody else. If I do, I'm going to set myself up to be disappointed. If I do, my mindset is they agreed. Them and I had one conversation. They're agreeing to the expectation. I'm going to hold them accountable. Yeah, I am. But when they don't meet the accountability standard, I'm not going to be upset, because in order to agree, you have to have a verbal acknowledgement and a physical movement. If that's not there, then okay, let's continue to try it again. But another underscore and highlight, capital BUT, people don't change overnight. You didn't change overnight. Your behavior didn't improve overnight. There's something called process, and everybody's process is different. Whether we're talking about the terrain and the valley of decision associated with the process or the time element, we have to give, again, as I ended the last conversation, people a space of grace. But people are different, and people's change or process of change is different. So why be mad? Because some people in your family, in your immediate household, possibly in another state, some of your co-workers, some of your business partners, whoever you identify with, and I want you to be real concentrated on who you identify with. I want you to identify this with yourself first, then identify with the people that you having this issue with, right? Because the issue is you gotta assess it and look in the mirror. Some people don't want to change, and some people are not going to change. That's the reality of life. When I know people that I'm associated with by their actions and conversations, that the life that they're living at this point is good for them. This is sufficing for them. They're okay with that. I'm not expecting for them to do anything outside of that. My expectations for them is their expectations for them. Now, I may have a hope that they think and do something different, but that's my hope. But the reality of it is, those individuals, hey, this is what I'm doing and this is what I'm on. Awesome. So in closing, some people don't want to change, and some people are not going to change. So let's not force feed these expectations on these individuals because they don't truly agree. Agreement is verbal acknowledgement, physical movement. That's how we know individuals agree with the expectations that we set, WE. So I'm not bringing an expectation to you that I came up with my own mind. I'm holding you and saying we're agreeing to the expectation that we collectively as a group came up with. But I still, as a leader, as a person that's involved in the conversation, I still have to look at your verbal acknowledgement and your physical movement. And though it may not be perfect, though it may not be in my timetable element, I can see it and acknowledgement and positive reinforce and build you up to the place where that expectation that you agreed upon becomes a part of your lifestyle.